Okay, so let's dive into some of the gear. Sniper operations aren't just shooting. The first thing is your optics, okay? You need a good set of binos or a monoscope of some kind, because the side of sniper that is kind of not the glory of being a sniper is the reconnaissance side of it. So essentially you're going to be the eyes and ears of, depending on the mission, of course, of whoever you're working for at the time. Okay, so the first thing they're going to use you for is observation. Okay, and so your observation skills are part of the fieldcraft. And so in sniper school, you go through training where you are taught how to observe an area and pick up details from that area so you can report that back to the higher ups. With sniper operations, optics are super important, because you got to be able to pull out detail from the target. You got to be able to target ID. You got to also be able to provide accurate information. So a good set of binos. A monoscope is really good, especially for the stalking portion. Something simple as this. That's lightweight and easy to move around. You don't need both eyes. You just need to see where you're going and measure things. And then, of course, I have only a 10 power on this rifle. This is all it needs, because I'm not out doing it for real. But if you're doing like military, they use a higher power scope for the specific reason of being able to distinguish details on a target, also target ID.
Got it.
Okay.
You were saying at one point that video camera might be...
You may have to bring that on the op, because they want real time, information. In the old days, we used to do a lot of sketching. So guys had to learn how to sketch a target. So you would take a sketch of the target. So if your camera or whatever broke, when you came out of the field, you still had intel of information. It's not just words, because a picture,
Got it.
is better than. So guys had to learn how to do sketches of areas and stuff like that, both topographical and panoramic. Next is the weapon systems. So depending on the operation, right? If you're thinking you're gonna need long range and you need something a little bit more robust, you would have a weapon system like this. This is a 300 Win Mag, shoots 220 grain. 300 Win Mag, and it goes up, 1,200 yards, easy. And depending on the operation, so in an urban environment, you might use a gas gun that's accurate, and then you put a scope on that. You may use that in an urban environment. Rural environment traditionally has been a bolt action rifle, but you can use a gas gun in the other environments also, okay? Just as long as it's accurate.
Is there anything special about this particular rifle you brought out today?
It's super short. It's fairly light. It has an 18-inch barrel, and it's still accurate out to 1,200 yards.
And so for stalking, all of that sounds like benefits, right? Because clearly it's more compact.
Right. Now, military style, you're probably going to have a suppressor on it. We're in California, so
Yeah.
I got to go with this. This is a noisy bitch. I wouldn't probably use this rifle unless I had a suppressor on it. There's nothing really fancy about it except for the size of it, which makes it a lot easier to stalk with this. What I do, what I prefer is backpack carrying some kind of other weapon while I'm patrolling, and then putting this on my back. So this turns into a backpack on the rifle, and I can just sling it on my back. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to get in a gunfight with that should I get compromised, right?
So this actually is attached to that.
Yeah, so so check it out. So I've got the QD mounts. So you can wear it like this, you can turn it upside down. Go ahead and put it on.
And like you were saying, primarily because I don't want to get into a gunfight with a bolt action rifle.
You don't want to get, that's not the ideal situation. Plus, it gives me the ability to carry, you're going to wear your chest harness and have another gun, while you're patrolling. Also, this helps if you got to crawl. So the old school way is to have a drag bag, put your rifle in a drag bag and drag it behind you. But I don't really like the idea of dragging my gun, so I go with a system like that.
Got it.
A backpack, depending on how long we're going to be out there, a backpack like this that can hold a sniper rifle in it. It's designed to do that, and I've got to carry a lot of gear.
Yeah.
This is a great system for that.
So as an option, an alternative, if you had to carry a lot of gear, you could use that and also throw this in there. Right. Got it.
If you're going to do a stock, you're going to lighten your load as much as you can and only bring the things that you need to bring. All right, of course, with your sniper rifle, you need to have the data, and ammunition. So I've got my data and my ammunition together. And this is the dope for my weapon system. Now, nowadays, guys are using Kestrels that have their dope card on it and you're doing all that stuff. But I think once you're doing the operation, I think the necessity of having all that information, it should be set pretty much, except for maybe some other environmental considerations that are going to happen. But you should know in your head already the range in which you need to be able to work. Got it. So to streamline yourself, I personally don't like to take a lot of electronics on a stock, just because of obvious reasons. Batteries and all that other stuff, even if you get fresh batteries, depending on the temperature, if it's super cold out, batteries burn out real quick, all that stuff. So you're relying on your electronics. So the old school way is you had a dope card, then you went from there. Yep. In mine, I have just the dope card, and then for being able to range estimate, I have the equation written down, because I'm no good at math, so I got to write down the equation to remind me. Right? And so the military uses mils. I use MOA because I think it's easier, because I think in feet and inches and yards. I don't think in meters and all that. So the metric system. And then, hey, this makes it easier. That's kind of my backup. Okay? And then I have a laser rangefinder. Makes it easy. Yeah. You know the distance of your target. But you may find yourself in an environment on a stock where, let's say it's a little bit foggy, or you have a little bit of weather, or there's a lot of vegetation. There's limitations to this. Whereas the scale in my scope, the reticle, or this monoscope has a reticle in it, okay, and I can range estimate with this without having to go into any, I just got to do math. Yeah. Right, okay.
And for our viewers, that's something actually we touched up on, if you're curious, in season 1 of their journey with Billy Leahy, where we talked about that, milling targets and things like that.
And what guys will do is they'll make a cheat sheet of the size of things and then what the mills equate to on the size of a target. So they'll have a cheat sheet so they can quickly look, oh, okay, it's 3 mils large. Okay, what's 3 mils? Oh, it puts me at, 230 yards, whatever. It's not accurate. I'm just throwing an example out there. You know what I'm saying? Okay. The weapon system, and then how you're going to shoot the weapon system is important too. So having bipods. I like to carry around a few options. I'll figure it out before I go on the op, so I don't have a lot of crap extra crap I got to carry to lighten my load. Because you'll see, once you start stalking, there are times that, you got so much shit with you, you're just, fuck. Yeah. Man, I wish I could get rid of this, right? But there's stuff that you have to carry, right? So I've got a smaller bipod. I have a larger bipod for stabling out. If I can get prone, I'm gonna get prone. If I can't, well, then I need tripods. Okay, you've got a tripod option, or you got a shooter stick type option. Obviously the tripod's gonna be more stable than this, but if you're trying to lighten your load, something like this, or actual traditional shooter sticks, which are simply 2 sticks or 3, right, that you rubber band together or tie together, and you rest your weapon on that system. Got it. Okay. And then I have another option. I always take a sandbag with me. This is small, but it does just fine. I recommend always having some kind of sand sock or sandbag. And then Atlas came out with this little cool guy thing where, let's say it's hard to put a bipod down on something, then I can use this.
Oh, got it. That's pretty cool.
This attaches to the gun, and then I can use this as the stabilizer. Yeah. So a lot of people shoot off their backpacks and all these other things, and and they don't even use tripod or bipods. I like using bipods because it stables the weapon system out. Takes away a little bit of the human error side of it. Got it. A little bit. It's not the end all be all. The nice thing about this weapon system is it's got a monopod in the back. So if you look back here, again, anything to make you more stable, that can help you out, make you more accurate, it's a good thing to have. Since this weapon system comes with it already, it's a no-brainer. This scope is in MOA because I prefer MOA. Military primarily is using mil radiant, okay? Even with the Trimmer 3, there's some variables with that. It's a whole different type of reticle, and that's really what the military is going with. I don't even know. It's probably a Trimmer 15. I don't know. You know what I mean? But
and just sorry, Tosh, just for our viewers. Also, if you're confused about that, when we're talking about MOA mills, check out the first episode where we're talking about long range shooting, where we dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter which system you use. They all work well. Just be good at whatever system you use. Okay, and be able to range estimate without electronics. Okay. All right. The other optic that I have is the laser rangefinder. This is just a little SIG cheapie. It's good. It's quick, and I can get a distance really good because you need to know that distance. Magazines. So depending on the situation, I'm going to have a couple magazines all loaded up, ready to go. I really don't patrol with a magazine in the weapon system unless I'm carrying that as a primary, then I'll load it up.
And that's just mainly for safety.
Yeah, because I don't have control over the weapon. It's on my back. It's in a bag. I don't have control over it. That's just me. It's not something you got to do. But I have seen guys on stocks. They load their weapon up, and that gun goes off. Thank God, they're using blanks in the course. Guys actually cause their weapon to fire because they had a round in chamber.
Got it.
So from that experience, I just decided if I don't have control over the weapon, there's no rounds in it. You know what I mean? At least nothing in the chamber. Okay, you may just load the magazine and bolts home. Let's talk about some of the field gear. Okay, backpacks, depending on how much gear you got, what you got to take, it's all mission dependent. So a good day pack like this with extra water and then the equipment necessary to accomplish your mission. Of course, you're probably going to carry a primary rifle. Okay, so you need magazines and a way to carry all the equipment for that. Okay, so this system for stalking is really good. In fact, this is what I used all the time because when you stalk, sometimes you got to get on your belly. And the nice thing about this is it's got a zipper up the front and I can just move it off to the side. Okay, so what magazines and equipment you need. Plus there's plenty of pouches on this that I can carry some of the other little, the monoscope, the extra bipod, the laser rangefinder, my dope card, whatever. Pruning shears, all that.
And this for our viewers is your typical Rhodesian.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's typical. This is an NSW type Rhodesian, specifically because it has a zipper in the middle. I think this was originally created for maritime work. Okay, over the beach type stuff. But it ended up being a really good system for sniper work.
And they adopted it probably, or?
Yeah, we just started using it because we found that, like a traditional Rhodesian, that's not really traditional minimalist, but traditional, there's no break in it. So it's stuck right here. And so when guys use something like this, they would just put it on their back when they were stalking. They turn it around, put it on their back, Not the best for sniper type stalking work. So something like this is really handy, really awesome.
So Tosh, just quickly, so we were talking about the Rhodesian here, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, when people are going to be stalking, they're going to be on their bellies. Right. So typically speaking, are snipers going to be wearing plate carriers? No, I was strictly going to be the Rhodesian because obviously that stuff gets in the way. Okay. It's
all what the rules of engagement are, the environment you're going into, and what your leadership allows you to get away with.
Okay, got it.
Right? There are a couple ops where they had us fully kitted out like we're doing a DA, but we had to wear the stuff.
What's a DA for our viewers?
Direct action mission, going in, taking out a target. But as a sniper op, they said, hey man, helmets, all, the body armor, the whole kit, like you're gonna go do a SWAT style mission. We had to do as a sniper, which makes it more difficult. It can be done, and it's done. Urban environment, you do that, of course, because urban environment, you may go from a rural environment to an urban environment back to a rural environment, depending on what the operation is. So worst case scenario, you wear helmet, body armor, all that stuff, which makes it harder if you're going to do a stalk. But remember, the stalking that we're doing here is not necessarily a mission, but a training tool to teach you skill sets that you're going to implement in your other missions. You know what I mean?
That's something just to drive in, because we talk about this too, and we've just released videos in the past where a lot of people will make comments, but and I think this is great that Tosh mentioned this, is sometimes it's just working specific skill sets, so it shouldn't be taken as something that you're going to be doing 100%. Like it's not something that's supposed to, maybe even practical to do everything or think it's going to all happen the same way. But glad you mentioned that, Tosh.
All right, let's talk about hydration. All right, when doing stalks, water. You got to have plenty of water, okay? So what guys typically do, they have a camelback underneath their ghillie suit, and we'll get into the ghillie suit in a little bit. They may do 2 or 3. They may take their bladder, throw it in the freezer. If it's a really hot environment, arid environment, throw that in the freezer, and then it's ready for the next day. And actually it'll help regulate your heat, your temperature. Some guys do that. I didn't really do it. I just sucked it up. But when I saw guys doing it, I was like, oh man, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
Because it does melt over, because it's hot out there, depending on where you're doing it. Some guys wear multiple camelbacks. They definitely have multiple bladders in their different backpack systems, because a bag this big will get sucked down in no time, and then you're left with nothing. So it's a good idea not only to have your backpack, your camelback style bladder, but also have a canteen that you actually physically have to get to and drink from, because you'll always have water that way. You're not just gonna, or you can refill the bladder if you need to. Okay. When you get something like this, you got to get one that's really strong. What is that? Platypus makes a really strong bag that can take a beating, because you may have to roll around on your back, and it's just having an old school camelbacks, they burst all the time. So that's the other reason why you want to have a hard container also, in case your bladder does break. Okay. So that would not be enough for a real good stalk. That'll get you the first maybe 100 yards, depending on the stalk field, right? Gloves, elbow pads, and knee pads, essential for stalking. These are interesting. I've never used elbow pads like this, but I think this is what guys are using nowadays. This is a great paintball elbow pad, awesome tool, especially if you have to do a lot of crawling, okay? Gloves are a must depending on the environment, but your hands move a lot, so the lightness of your hand may flash the observer, so you want to have some kind of camouflage glove, okay? Plus it'll help you when you're crawling around the ground, or you got thorn bushes, an environment like this, a lot of thorn bushes, so gloves, essential. Okay, let's go over the ghillie suit. Okay, we've got a couple ghillie hats here. Probably the single most important part of your ghillie outfit, okay, is the ghillie hat. Because you can do other things in combination with this ghillie hat that you can get a stalk done. When I was teaching in Indiana, the sniper course, we had a guy who did a stalk in a red Speedo and a ghillie hat, and he had knee pads. I mean, he got cut up pretty bad, but he was able to accomplish the stalk in a red Speedo and a ghillie hat. Okay, so this is the single most important part of your ghillie outfit, okay? And having one that's beat up, enough jute on it, and we'll talk about jute in a second, but we'll go over the ghillie suit fully. Okay, so you got the ghillie hat. You got something called a ghillie shaw. We used to call them silly ghillies, because it essentially only covers your shoulders and your head. It's got a hood, okay? The NSW guys like to just wear this because it's light, it's easy to pack in a bag. You don't need to take a whole ghillie suit, and it's real quick to use. It's pretty effective. I still bring a ghillie hat with it, you know what I mean, on top of this, but it does break up your shape quite a bit, and it's got plenty of jute on it. Jute is this stuff, the burlap on there. Now, when I went through the Army course, they were big on the jute. You had to have everything fully covered in jute. So like this, they would have, during the daily inspection, they would have walked over to it and painted it international orange. And I'd have to jute it all up. And yeah, I mean, you look like a Wookiee with it, you know, right? So, but this is actually plenty of jute, okay? Because, let's talk about it now. The jute isn't what hides you. Jute is filler for the vegetation that you're gonna use. And we'll get into vegetation later. But really what you're gonna use is the vegetation in your environment to fill in. And then where you have holes in that vegetation, you've got the jute and it fills those gaps, so to speak, okay? So you don't need a crap ton of ghillie like you see everybody do in all the movies and everything. I mean, they just look like a big Wookiee out there. They look like Bigfoot, right? That's a little excessive, okay? So here's the traditional style ghillie top. These are great in cooler environments and environments where you know you got to crawl a lot because it's reinforced. There's a little bit of padding in there, so you can do quite a bit of crawling. I'm going to say in most stock fields, if you're crawling that much, you're doing it wrong.
Got it.
Okay. But
so this is specifically when you know you're going to be on your belly pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you're in a cold environment and you want another extra layer. This is great because the padding on here keeps you off the ground. Because when you're on the ground, whether it's hot or cold, if it's hot, it's going to heat you up. If it's super cold, it's going to suck the heat right out of you. So having that extra layer is nice. You know what I mean? And some guys would stock with just the top and a ghillie hat. Okay.
Red Speedo.
That's what he should have. He got cut up. All right. And so if you look at this, you know, this is a pretty barren, this is your typical NSW sniper. They don't like to put a lot of jute on because it's a lot of work, right? So you would want to jute this up a little bit more, you know, get it dirty, beat it up, get it nasty looking, you know, just that dirt, earthy thing going on. But you can see that you have different angles with the 550 cord that they've sewn on here. This is awesome because you can put veg in every angle that you need to do that's appropriate. You know, and you use your rubber bands or your ties to do that. Here are the pants, or a style of ghillie pant. Same reason you would use this. You know, you got a little extra layer between you and the ground. It's padded a little bit. These are actually, I like these a lot, wearing pants like this, because, I mean, you're not really, it doesn't hurt to do it, right? And what they've done with these is they sewed 550 cord so you can put jute and vegetation in there, weave it in there. Okay, depending on the environment, how much veg you need and all that. Okay, little things. Essentials. So ties or zip ties, these help you with veg, okay? You can make something called a veg fan, which I think is, and we'll go over that a little bit later on. These are important to have these or rubber bands because these will help you attach vegetation to your equipment and to your body. A multi-tool, it's a good thing to have with you, especially in environments where there's a lot of thorns and thickets. You know, getting those burrs out of you, you know, or some kind of needle nose or tweezers or something like that, because you're gonna get stuck by something. And you know, when you're doing a stock and you've got, you know, just a little sliver poking into you, depending on where it's at, it may be what makes you pass or fail a stock because you're concentrating on that pain as opposed to concentrating on it. So getting rid of those things, you need a kind of a tool to do that. And even bringing Band-Aids with you might be something that you may need to do too. Very crucial part of a sniper kit is a good set of pruning shears, okay, for your vegetation. Okay, and there's techniques to how to use this and all that other stuff. But having something that you can cut vegetation, not saw it, but cut it so you can get it quickly while you're under observation and not be seen. Something like this is super, super important.
Is that mainly to put that vegetation on you, or is it more just to...
So you're gonna cut vegetation in the field. So as you're moving along in your stock field, So this is part of the Fieldcraft, right? You should know kind of the area that you're going to, because as you're stocking up, you're picking your routes, okay? And you're not just going, okay, that gives me the best cover. You're also looking at the cover and saying, okay, what is that cover made of? Okay, what kind of trees are, what kind of vegetation is. And as you're moving up, you're collecting veg to put in your ghillie suit. And you may have to stop. You're like, let's say you're moving from different types of terrain or different types of vegetation. So, and you've got to transition from the vegetation that you're in to the vegetation you're going into. So let's say I'm in a forest area and there's a lot of pine trees and all that, and then I have to get through a meadow and it's all grass. So now I got to start collecting that grass type vegetation to start putting it in. And the way I personally did it is, what I would do is I moved along a stalk, I would collect up veg and make a bunch of veg fans. And we'll go over veg fans in a little bit, and then start stacking that and using that to your advantage. Okay, and the tool that's gonna help you do that is this and this, or zip ties. I like rubber bands because it's a little bit easier to use. And even if they break, you can tie them. You know what I mean? If this goes, if you lose that lock, then it does you no good. Can't really tie those. Yeah, so this is essentially the minimal amount of equipment that you're gonna need to do a stock.